All right, so here we go. Yes, we got new official Diablo 4 updates and dev responses about Wrathful Hearts, new Necromancer updates, enchanting is also getting improvements, and what about that VRAM memory leak issue? Some new responses from the dev team on that one. Plus, further boss updates, a new hotfix has been released, and much more. But yeah, check this out right here. So this game is really cool. It lets you marry two bloodlines together, which can result in over 1,000 possible fantasy hybrids that inherit the traits and visual features of their parents passed down from each family tree and fused into one. You can even create variations of demons, demigods, orcs to dwarves, and everything in between. Even dragonborn and vampires are here to aid you in defending your very own kingdom, which you can build from scratch. So Robbie, what in the world is this game? Well, it's called Bloodlines: Heroes of Lithis, and you can download the game right now for free by clicking my link in the description below, or scan the QR code on the screen and receive an amazing starter pack worth $20. Now, Bloodline Heroes of Lithis also features fantastic visuals on mobile and smart pads, a well-crafted story campaign, and an online PvP multiplayer with seasonal guild wars, where you can ultimately earn the highly sought-after Bloodcraft Legends, which are extremely unique hybrid champions. What's so impressive is the actual Bloodline feature itself, which can get really cool. Get this, you can create your own unique legendary champions by combining many different bloodlines together, then raise heirs with companions, waifus, and yes, you can switch genders of companions freely too. New bloodlines are also released every 2 weeks, keeping the game updated constantly. So download Bloodline Heroes of Lithis right now for free on iOS or Android by clicking my link in the description below, or scan the QR code on the screen and get a special starter pack worth $20. Now, this starter pack contains 1 summoning crystal, 100,000 in gold, and 100 diamonds. And the first 30 players to leave their in-game account ID and username in the first pinned comment section down below will receive a free legendary female orc champion, Ugrul, one of the best warriors to carry you in the game. And also thanks to Bloodline Heroes of Lithis for believing in what I do and sponsoring this video. Alright, so before we get into the Diablo 4 news, a quick PSA. I will be traveling soon here for about a week with my fiance. We are going to be celebrating our engagement. I remember I got a comment here recently that said, you know what, take some time off, really enjoy this, celebrate it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So thank you so much for the love and support there. Now, things are not going to stop. Things are going to continue running smoothly with the news and updates, thanks to my clone bro, Ryan, who will be taking over for about a week. So you might hear my voice change up suddenly. You're probably wondering, what has happened to Robbie? Well, that's my twin bro, Ryan, taking over. I will have some backlogged videos as well, but yes, I just wanted to let you guys know that. All right, so let's get into the Diablo 4 news, shall we? Let's head on over to Twitter, or X. So, it says this: I would love if Worthful invokers, no, that's supposed to be Wrathful invokers, weren't as rare as Uber uniques. We have a response here from Adam Fletcher, who says this: yeah, we've been seeing this a bit from feedback. Team is discussing this a bit more here internally. This has to be adjusted. I've seen so many complaints about this out on Reddit, and hopefully they have a firm answer as to what they're going to be doing. They need to fix this sooner than later, because again, season 1 is not permanent, so hopefully they get that in like patch 1.1.1. All right, next up we have this one right here. I didn't see any mention in the notes, but is there any chance there's going to be a fix for corpse tendrils not spawning blood orbs? The response here from Adam Fletcher is team is also looking into this one. Still, again, hoping that this Necromancer update and fix happens in patch 1.1.1. That is a problem, because a lot of us are now using tendrils because of how effective those malignant hearts are for the Necromancer in particular. But yeah, we also got to talk about some new responses about patch 1.1.1. There are some notes that you probably missed out on that are super important, that are going to be changing the game for the better. Check it out right here. It says, fix an issue where continuously enchanting an item could result in having the same stat show repeatedly in subsequent re-rolls. Huge. Has 1,200 upvotes, and a response here saying, I've been scrolling for this. Does this mean that they're doing away with the priority of fix system, or is this just going to make it so we see less duplicate rolls? If it's the latter, won't that make it harder to upgrade a bottom roll? And the response here is this: the wording is kind of weird, but it should make it so that when you re-roll, 2 of the same stat will not be a result anymore. Like when you re-roll and see 2 dexterity results, for example. I think they're on point with that one. I think it's going to be a better change, I believe. So we will see what happens again once they actually implement the changes, but it seems like enchanting is going to be better without that duplicate roll there, because that's such a pain. It's such a waste. But they need to further improve enchanting so you can actually get a preview of what the possibilities are so you're not wasting so much enormous amounts of gold in the later parts of the game. All right, next up we have this one from Andrew, who says, nothing in the patch notes about the horse changes are those not coming in 1.1.1. And of course, if you miss what's happening with the horse, that is of course getting an update that is twofold. We'll be able to power our way through barricades on horse, and then also when we climb off of a ladder, there will be no cooldown to get back on the horse. Now, Adam Fletcher responded saying this right here, those will be later on, so unfortunately, that will not be making it into update 1.1.1, which is a bummer. They also need to rework the horse entirely in so many different ways and make the horse a lot more fun. I think that they are in tune with this, and I hope that that does actually happen. It seems like that they would be interested in that now. Furthermore, we have this one right here, is the VRAM memory leak fix included in patch 1.1.1. So let's see what Adam Fletcher had to say about this one. Yeah, this one has some changes to VRAM management. We have had some tests internally with this and seen memory levels stay consistent over numerous hours of gameplay, porting in and out through towns. We will monitor post 1.1.1 for any additional items. So overall, I'm hoping that we see significant improvements to the VRAM memory leak issue. It just seems like the more and more you play the game, the worse off the game gets. But QA, they're really working on it, and I hope that it all pans out to be good. Now, we also have this out on Reddit. It says, bosses at level 100 have 100% increased health. This is also going to be coming to update 1.1.1. It says, well, Butcher is a skip now. And it says, watch him get a barrier based on his max health. We do have actual responses about this. And then we also have this one right here. Does Uber Lilith have that 100% HP increase as well? Asking the real question here. So let's see what the devs had to say about this one. Out on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, says, does this mean Lilith, the Butcher, and Varshan all are getting health buffs too? Help us understand, please. And the response here from Adam Fletcher saying, Story and Uber Lilith are not. So there you go. The more you know as to what is happening with update 1.1.1 and the boss health increases. A lot of people are also scratching their heads going, why did they do this in the first place? And they don't want that at all. Let me know what side of the fence you are on with that one. Someone also pointed this out here. You can't forget about this one. It says, developers note, leave dungeon ability was being used as another method of easy escape from danger in dungeons, particularly for hardcore players. However, we recognize that this is outweighed by the downside of the game feeling less responsive. We've heard your feedback and are reversing this change, so that's great news. And he says, LOL, if they had put this note in the original change from 3.5, I think there would have been less backlash. But again, I still think the backlash would have been somewhat similar because people do not like waiting around any amount of time that is additional to, what was. It's completely pointless, and I'm glad that they are reverting that as well. Also, we got to note this right here. Bonus damage or bonus effects that are applied on hit or when dealing damage will now apply that same effect through barriers. This is actually huge. It says this is pretty great. Whacking a barrier with Rogue is a slog sometimes. So I think this is going to make the game feel so much better for many reasons. I have noticed this as well, where you can run into enemies with that barrier and it just feels like such a chore sometimes. It doesn't feel right. Seems like the team knows this and they're going to be fixing that as well. And back out on Twitter, we have Adam Fletcher mentioning the patch notes, but some responses here. Joseph says this patch is coming out way later than expected or has been suggested before during the last 2 campfire chats. Any reason for the delay? These classes need these changes as soon as possible. The response here from Adam Fletcher is, I'm confused how we suggested that this is coming later than expected in the last campfire when we literally announced the date of the patch in the last one, and that hasn't changed. And yeah, you can hear the frustration here from Adam Fletcher. I completely get it. Yeah, the patch being August 8th is not late whatsoever. It's on point. It's on target for what they have said previously. So if you're expecting them to just rush it out, that's never a good thing in my opinion. Patches can actually create more problems, of course, which has actually happened with Diablo 4 in its past. And they don't want to have like massive problems when they release a big patch. So they're gonna kind of try to do it right, not take too much time, of course. I feel like the timing on this one is, right. Mentioning patches, we have a hotfix actually. So check this out right here. This is live. It says hotfix 4 and 5 for August 2nd. So what changed? So we have some seasonal bug fixes, fix an issue where battle pass tiers could sometimes not be claimed. I saw some comments about that on Reddit. They also fix an issue where an explosion from Barber Malignant Heart could sometimes not kill a monster when it should, and then further stability improvements as well. They never give us specifics as to what that means exactly. I really wish they would. Now, there was a concerning Twitter post as well. Check it out right here. It says, "Why was this post removed from Reddit? We're Brazilian people trying to get feedback, and you guys just do that." Really, a ton of cool stuff was put in the topic, and just for nothing. This is very shameful, really. And we have a response here from Adam Fletcher saying, "FYI, we don't run the subreddit pages. I'd recommend using a mid-mod mail tools to reach out to them. Blizzard doesn't run any of the Diablo subreddits, including Immortal or the one specific to 4. And it says, "It seems to me that they just don't care at all." But ultimately, the mod team did respond to this dude out on Twitter, and guess what? They reinstated his post. We've got to take a look at it. And it goes on to say this: "Massive feedback Diablo 4 after hype passed away. A ton of things that need to be fixed, including intensity of skills, as they promised." And we have the intro here, but I want to get straight into the list of feedback that needs to be analyzed urgently. So let's do this. It says, "Themed season." So the season of the Malignant is indeed fun, but we need to make this season worth continuing to play. What I mean here is the season should turn sigils into evil sigils, where within a themed dungeon, it automatically runs without me having to choose whether I want to do Malignant or game normal. What do you guys think of that one? I think it would also be cool to have like Malignant sigils as well. Perhaps you can activate a Nightmare dungeon and turn that into a Nightmare Malignant dungeon. That's cool. But he also has some great ideas about Uber bosses. Check it out right here. It says, "New Uber boss. Barsham was just the first new Uber to arrive at Sanctuary, but it is not challenging. It is not difficult, and we need it to be something challenging. The idea here is if he is a boss of the season's themed dungeon, allow him to be able to summon himself inside a tier 100 sigil where he receives the dungeon effects, and thus his fight becomes more challenging. Because in this way that he is today, he doesn't have any kind of challenge for the community. Or if you prefer, create a type of fragment that is used to invoke the same in an Uber Lilith level version." So essentially, I think what he's saying is having sigils that can modify the boss. I absolutely love this idea. I really hope that perhaps Blizzard could consider this in the future, because I think it would make the game so much more enjoyable. Perhaps they could even do something like this, I don't know, for world bosses. I don't know if that's even possible or not, if enough players could gather up enough sigils to alter the world boss in a significant way. That's always an idea, but again, that's going to be far more complicated than what he is suggesting here. So I think this is a great idea and could make the bosses far more replayable, even Nightmare dungeons far more replayable in the tail end of the dungeon for sure. All right, next up we have this one right here, skills intensity. It was presented, and as shown below, we don't have this in the game apparently. Some skills are totally simple without beautiful visual effects, as presented in the previews of the game's quarterly update during its launch. That's something that's always kind of shocked me, is how Ancestrals are just kind of like meh when it comes to actual visual effects and what they can actually do. 100% agree with this, and I think it's one of the bigger complaints within the community is that World Tier 4 is just kind of meh when it comes to that loot. Next up, we have absurd fast scale damage. The game has 1 month of life, and we are already getting to Diablo 3 due to its calculations and types of fixes that are absurdly disproportionate in terms of condition to apply damage. I believe that this part needs attention and review this formula used, because seriously, it makes no sense to get a world boss, simply kill him in 4 or 2 seconds of the fight. Seriously, this urgently needs to be readjusted, and I believe that everyone in the community who wants the best of the game is in agreement with this. So, you know, they're already adding like more health to a lot of the bosses as well. But when you start adjusting things too much again and you start nerfing, people can become upset. So I really do like the idea of having something that could further modify bosses to make them tougher. And I've always said that they need to revisit some of these world bosses. And let me know if you guys agree with this or not, and have certain stages or points during the world boss where there's just mobs of enemies that can rush you, and then healers that take the stage and start healing the world boss, and you have to kind of like panic and go, oh god, get on them, you know, and essentially divide and conquer. That would be really cool. All right, next up we have trade. So the trade system needs to be implemented in the game. A merchant can sell and advertise rare-based items inside Sanctuary today. We use a Discord to be able to exchange between players, and this is revolting because in addition to having to keep creating posts all the time, we can only do this with a minute lock, and it ends up being annoying to have to do this almost all the time. The system could be implemented with a limit of 10 rare items that could be sold in an auction house, for example. I see what he's trying to say there. So yeah, a lot of people do want trading in the game. Now, officially, once again, Blizzard has stated they want to improve the social elements. They didn't speak specifically about trade, but social elements I would think would include trade. We'll see what they decide to ultimately do with that one. I think they're going to take it a bit slower than we like when it comes to improving social elements. All right, so Nightmare Dungeons and World Boss Mechanics. Let's talk about it. It says, as the characters level up, the boss mechanics in general are not used in the game due to the damage escalating absurdly quickly. This needs to be reviewed and bring the fights to have immersion. Make the player feel challenged when fighting these type of bosses inside Sanctuary, even on story mode. Yeah, you know, recently I've been going through some of the bosses, and I've been like, they are just far too easy. I think that they need to revisit some of the mechanics here once again. So 100% agree with that one. And then optimization, we're going to be seeing some improvements there, of course. That's going to continue. Visual effects, the visual effects are totally different from what you announced. Check this out, because according to the quarterly updates you showed us, the game was supposed to look very different than it does now with the skills. I feel that now it is more focused on Diablo 3 than on the realism and beauty that Diablo 4 is providing us. In this way, I want to say this. The skills and their effects do not follow the graphical quality of the game. Interesting. Do you guys feel the same way? And then, of course, he has some notes here about the interface. The game's interface needs to be separated in some aspects due to the accumulation of items that we carry out throughout the game. Yeah, you know, inventory management, I think they have seen and heard that that's one of the biggest complaints is the current inventory system. It needs to be reworked big time, and they're taking some steps, some band-aid type steps towards that with how they're reworking gems and how those are stored. So that's the first step, but that's not going to be the only step. All right, so now it's time to get into your top comments. Remember to leave a comment down below. It could end up right here in a future video, so let's do this. All right, so my most recent video was about Update 111 full patch notes. Big promises missing. Here's why. And they actually did add those promises to the patch notes. Overall, it's just the horse is not getting updated for patch 111, which honestly is a bummer. We're going to have to wait a little bit longer for that one. But let's see what you guys had to say here. So we have Ulrich, who says this. They could easily do a change to items per type. Normal have 1 affix, magic have 2, regular rare have 3, sacred have 4, and ancestral have 5. Which means an ancestral would almost always be an upgrade to a sacred, as it could offer a new damage, resistance, or utility option to your build. It would also make unique even better. Just think if you have a sacred unique with 4 as you enter world tier 3 and a 10 to 20 levels after you find the same on world tier 4 as an ancestral. These could be worth farming much more. And to make ancestral aspects being able to roll higher numbers than sacred and normal aspects as well makes no sense to have the same of all types. That was my immediate thinking when I got my first ancestral. I'm like, wait, why is it designed like this? It doesn't make any sense, and you are absolutely on point. Once again, the entire system between sacreds and ancestrals needs to be revisited big time to make ancestrals just pop and stick out. All right, next up we have this one right here from Jaws25, who says, agreed on the items needing to differentiate itself. Also, feel uniques have really missed the mark. Diablo 2 had such memorable uniques. Gold Strike Bow would spam Fist of Heavens all over the screen. You knew when someone had a Storm Shield or Titan's Revenge, etc. Diablo 4 doesn't have many uniques that are worth getting and that do anything exciting to be proud of getting it. I call it the Anthem effect. You remember Anthem? That's what I always refer to, because yeah, I had a lot of weapons in Anthem, but nothing like that was like, wow, this is amazing. It's kind of similar in some ways to what's happening with Diablo 4. And if they want to have this game survive, they need to fix this portion of the game pretty much immediately. All right, next up we have Lewis, who says, it's funny that while this was supposed to focus more on Barb and Sorcerer, every class got some nice buffs, and Barb ones were the least meaningful. I hear you. I see so many people mentioning this. And what Blizzard has said officially is they want to raise up other elements of the classes so you have more variety in what you're playing and different build variety. So that's their excuse for this, but it seems like you guys are interested in them basically buffing what they nerfed. That you want back what was lost, it seems. So we'll see what they decide here, because it seems like they're right now going through feedback and seeing what you actually implement for update 1.1.1. What will finally be added into the game? That's going to be the question. Now we have Ronald, who says the Butcher, especially at lower levels, is harder than most in-dungeon bosses. I think it should be a guaranteed legendary with a chance of a unique, say 10 or 15% chance. Again, yeah, I think the chance of him dropping something especially cool should be much higher. I mean, running into the Butcher is very rare in itself, so when you get that chance, you should be like, oh my god, this is the opportunity. This is my chance to finally get that super rare ultimate weapon. And your palms would be sweating. You know what's at risk here. You know the reward that could potentially be waiting for you. That's the type of excitement that is currently kind of missing from those encounters and needs to be in the game. All right, so there it is. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned here for more Diablo 4 news and updates, and keep those comments rolling in. I am sure Blizzard is very curious to see what you guys have to say. I have to say, on one side, Blizzard is listening. They are implementing changes that are necessary. So at least there's that. And then there's some things that, of course, make us scratch our head. But overall, keep the feedback going, because they are definitely in some ways listening. But thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned here for more, and I will see you all next time. Take care.